Hello! Sun's coming out to play right now, isn't it? Hello, everybody. Today I'm gonna be talking about my brain damage. Yes. Yeah, hey. I know. How could you don't, that doesn't seem like something you would have. But hey, but alas, I've been hit in the head many times. So today I'm going to talk more about my brain damage than necessarily how I got the brain damage. Okay, so we're gonna get into my issues. Right. So I've had many TBIs. Now TBIs are gonna be that means traumatic brain injury. I've had multiple of those. Right? Hey, might not seem noticeable, but. There. It was a little sunny outside. Yes, it was. So I've also had multiple concussions. That's a little bit different because it's a little bit less. Oh, no, I am wrong. Who would have thought? Actually, a concussion is a traumatic brain injury. So I've had many traumatic brain injuries. A TBI is a general term encompassing an injury to the brain ranging from mild to severe. A concussion is a mild form of TBI characterized by temporary loss of brain function due to a blow or jolt to the head. But the treatments are a little bit different. Anyway, so I've had many severe TBIs. Now, so we're going to be talking a little bit about my amnesia. I have some notes here because I have amnesia. Just this little lesson for you here if you wanted to learn a little bit something about
brains.
So there's different types of amnesia. Now when you get hit in the head, there's typically two types of amnesia that you can have. So the first one is going to be retrograde amnesia, and the second one is anterograde amnesia. Now one is way worse than the other one, and that's the one that I have. Retrograde amnesia is the inability to recall events that occurred before a specific point in time. So when I think about this, how I remember it is retro, like old. Retrograde, old things happened before. And then anterograde amnesia is the inability to form new memories after a specific point in time. That can be, like, you might have seen that movie where that girl, she's in some kind of accident and she literally thinks that she's like 20 years old or something, and then like she literally can't remember. Every day when she wakes up, like it restarts where she can't remember the day before, and like blah blah, she thinks that she's the same age. Now that's like extreme. I'm pretty sure that it's only happened like a few times or something. I don't think. Anyway, I basically had that in the beginning. And it wasn't necessarily that bad because eventually it got better. Anyway, but I still have it to some degree. So this is how it affects me, is that it sounds like I'm gonna have it for a very long time, if not forever, because I don't know why. Sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. Anterograde amnesia, the one that I have, can be caused by brain damage, intoxication, or certain medications. Now, I've never been drunk in my life, so it was in fact by the extreme blow to my head. And also, hey, this is gonna sound crazy. I don't even take any medication. Now, I know it's gonna sound wild because it might seem like I have many mental illnesses, which I probably do, but I haven't gone in for them. Now you can also have post-traumatic amnesia, which is a combination of retrograde amnesia and anterograde amnesia that occurs after a traumatic brain injury. I didn't really have that. Now this happened after both of the times. So after multiple of the severe traumatic brain injuries, like the first time I had the anterograde amnesia, then it got a little bit better, and then I hit my head, then my head got hit really Could you? And then it got hit again, and then it came back again. And then it happened one more time. Really severe. If you are following my other channel, you've heard of the one from when I collapsed in a hospital. That was just a regular concussion, but apparently it was also traumatic brain injury. We're learning things. I'll probably forget that. Now that I think about it, I probably have learned that, and I just forgot, but hey. Anyway, so basically, how does this affect me specifically? It's been some time since the last severe traumatic brain injury. The biggest thing that it affects me with is that I could be talking to someone, I could be having like a full-on conversation with you, and I could be in the middle of literally talking and completely forget what we were talking about. We could have been talking in depth about a conversation for 20 minutes, and I will completely forget what we were talking about. I will have not even a little bit inkling. You know, like how you can kind of, when you wake up, you're trying to like remember your dreams, but they're like disappearing really fast, and then like you but you have to like think about them, otherwise it's just gonna like disappear completely. It's just like that. If I'm talking about something and I'm having a conversation and like I can kind of tell, I'm like, oh no, something's about to happen in my brain. I can tell when my brain just shuts off, basically. Like I can tell it's gonna happen in like a few seconds. There's not a lot that I can do about it unless I am like instantaneously aware of it, and I'm like, we were talking about grass. I'll have to be so focused in about what we were talking about, not even what I was saying. I'll probably forget what I was saying. I have to kind of pick one or the other. Like if we're having an in-depth conversation about grass, I don't know why we would be. Here's the sun again. I have to either focus on the fact that we were talking about grass or focus on what I was saying in that sentence, what sentence I was literally just saying. So usually I'll kind of try to go and think about the theme in general that we were talking about. Usually that doesn't work. 90% of the time when I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna forget. And I'm talking about my mind is wiped of what we were talking about. And it doesn't really matter what I'm talking about. I can be talking about something that I really like or really enjoy, or like I'm really into the conversation. If my mind is like, yeah, we're taking everything. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes like we could be in an in-depth conversation for like an hour and I might remember quite a bit about it. Usually that's not gonna happen. Usually even if I don't forget completely, I'm gonna forget 50% of what we were talking about. And you could even bring it back up and be like, remember when we were talking about this? I actually don't.
Hey, I actually don't remember that at all.
Now I've been in situations where this is, oh my gosh, where this has been an issue. To me, it's almost more embarrassing than anything. Even if I'm talking with someone that I know, it's just, I don't know how to explain to someone that, if I'm talking to someone and they don't know that I've like been hit in the head many times, and I forget about what we were talking about like completely, I do have to tell them that I don't even know what we were talking about. Or like if I'm in the middle of the sentence, and it seems like sometimes I'll be like really in depth with something, and I'll be like talking about something for a while, and it seems like I really have something to say about the topic, and then I just completely forget what I was, even in the middle of a sentence, I'll just go blank, and I won't remember, and I'll be like, but there's no use. Most people that I know don't know that I have this. I think they just think that I'm really stupid. This happens daily. A third of the conversations that I'm in, it just is gonna happen. No matter who I'm talking to, no matter how hard I try to focus on whatever, like to try to prevent it, there's nothing really that I can do to kind of prevent me forgetting. When I see that it's coming on, I like try so hard. And like I said, like 90% of the time, it's gonna fail. And if it doesn't fail, I'm gonna forget about what I was talking about in that moment, like the sentences that I was just saying. If I'm focusing on the topic in general, then I'll maybe be able to remember that. But when I can't remember even in that sentence what I was talking about, I feel embarrassed, and especially if I forget like the whole topic that we were just talking about for like the past hour, obviously I will really feel embarrassed as well. In the last video that I just posted, I'll edit the video. Sometimes I might go back and watch it like a few days later if I'm just like I can't even remember what I was talking about. And I just kind of want to make sure that I said everything that I wanted to say, or like if I didn't, I could kind of bring it up in a different video. I was watching the video back and I'm like, I said the same things so many times. I just kept saying them over and over again. And the thing is, you might be thinking, well, you're going back and you're editing the video. Maybe I'll say something in the first couple minutes of a video and then I'll like go through and I'll keep editing and then I'll say the same thing like a couple of minutes later. I do not remember that I said it the first time, even when I'm editing it, like, and I'm going back through it and I'm going back through it. Sometimes it'll stick though. Like when I went back and I watched it a couple days later, that's all it took for me to be like, what? Sometimes I can remember things. Usually I can't. I'm honestly surprised that I can remember, that I noticed that. If I'm doing like a sit down and a talk video like this, a lot of the times my mind will just like completely space out. Everyone kind of has this to some degree where you'll just kind of dissociate. And you know how like when you dissociate, it like feels good? Like for your brain to like, be kind of off for a few seconds and your like eyes just kind of like the last video that I filmed for over an hour, and when I was editing it, I dissociated for about 40 minutes. Not consecutively, that would have been really... Imagine me just for 40 minutes. When I'm talking about something, I have to focus so hard, otherwise it's gonna be gone. You might be thinking, well, like you're talking pretty quickly, like it seems like you're doing pretty okay with like expressing your thoughts. That's the ADHD. I got the amnesia and the ADHD, and I could like be so having ADHD out of my mind, like talking super fast and just be super focused in my brain about like what I'm talking about, and then immediately just like right now that I'm talking, in a couple of seconds, I could immediately just forget what we were talking about, the whole entire video. I would have to remember the concept of this video. Usually in videos, I have my notes written down. I did not have my notes written down last video. In this book that I have my notes written down in. So I got this book. So I got that before I went to Spain. It was just like one little notebook because I'm like, I don't think we're gonna need really like a lot of stuff to do like 2 classes, and I was just gonna write down the same stuff for both of the classes in one notebook. I brought that with me to Spain. It came with me. It was in my suitcase. I completely forget that I have the notebook. Forgot that I bought it, that I brought it with me. So I went and bought a new notebook. But then we got back here and I'm like, what the Anyway, so now I have this notebook that I write my things down on it. And it has turtles on it. Kind of scary how, like, when they're born, they just have to run for their lives. In like, the first, quickly. You know, I gotta keep up the ADHD. The ADHD helps me. I'm not on any medication for that. Because I don't want to be. But I do, because whenever I need to be really productive, then it doesn't help me. Because then I just sit and I do nothing. But when I need to talk about things, it helps me. Anyway, so another thing that affects me with is stuttering. So I actually had to go to a speech therapist for some time. It's a lot better now, as you may be able to tell. The biggest issue that I had was, it was talking in general. Like, it wasn't just stuttering. I definitely just had a difficult time talking in general. Certain sounds we would work on, because they would be, like, harder for me to make, I guess. But I still have the stuttering a little bit, as you may have noticed. I cut most of it out, but sometimes I just stutter. It's not that big of a deal, you know, because, like, everyone stutters sometimes, a little bit. Sometimes I get kind of like stuck in a loop where it'll be like I just start like want to think about thoughts now. Yes, what were we talking about? I have my notes. But even when I have my notes, it's like, I have written down stuttering. But it's like, I can't remember what we were talking about with the stuttering. I don't know. Maybe we should move on to a different time. Oh my gosh, you know what? So recently, my amnesia, it's been getting worse in the past couple of weeks. I was kind of thinking maybe a little bit because, so my dog, my little puppy, whenever I pick him up, he'll be totally fine when I pick him up, and then he'll just like lay in your arms and then he'll be fine. But then once he decides he wants to get out of your arms, he will like shake his head, and he's hit me in the head a couple of times, but he'll just like smack me in the head. But I don't think that's like, it's not, I mean, he is hitting me in the head, but I feel he does have a hard skull like humans do. Like, obviously we have hard skulls and they have hard skulls, but I don't know if that's, I don't know. I honestly feel like it's just flaring up, and sometimes that just, I mean, it doesn't usually it's been pretty consistent for like the past couple of years. But anyway, so the other day I should have wrote this down. Oh yeah. We can do this. We can do it. Oh my gosh, that's gonna bug me because it was funny. It was funny. I know it was funny. I don't know what was funny. See, usually I cut this stuff out. It was something to do with laundry. A couple of years ago, I got in my car. I remember getting ready to go. I don't even remember where I was going. So I'm getting my stuff. I get my keys, and that's the last thing I remember until I end up at a CVS pharmacy. I get out of the car. This was really late at night. CVS pharmacy is no longer open, bitch. I even start walking in, and I'm just, the thing that like kind of snapped me back to reality wasn't the fact that I like saw the CVS pharmacy sign. It was just like, I'm like, where is everybody? And then I realized where I was. I have never once purposefully driven to a CVS pharmacy. My go-to pharmacy, Walgreens. I go to Walgreens practically every other day. I can understand me ending up at a Walgreens because that's somewhere that I go often, and it's somewhere that I would like think about going often. There would be no reason in my mind that I would be thinking, even just like subconsciously, I'm going to CVS pharmacy. And I can't even remember where I was going, but I know it wasn't a CVS pharmacy. It happens a lot when I'm driving. You know, and I think this happens to a lot of people where you'll just kind of like dissociate while you're driving. You're like, oh my god, I'm driving. Like after like a couple minutes, you'll be like it's just kind of like autopilot. And I definitely have that where I'm just like, I don't even like really think about it that much. Unless it's like rush hour or something and there's like, you know, I have to really be like paying attention. I mean, not that I don't pay attention when I'm driving, but you know what I mean. When you've been driving for so many years, it's just like kind of second nature to drive. Anyway. Most of the time it doesn't happen when I'm doing something physical. I mean, it does happen in like smaller things where I'll be wanting to do something and then I'll like get up and I'll like remember getting up and then I'll just like be in like the bathroom or I'll be in like the kitchen or something. There was one time I wanted to make some food and there was like, I knew what I wanted to make. I got up to go into the kitchen and then I eventually had like made like a bowl of pasta and then I like snapped it back to reality after I made the bowl of pasta, and that's not what I was trying to make. And the last thing I remember was going to make food and then I just like snap back to reality with a bowl of pasta in my hands. With the pasta thing, I'll have like 1% remnants of being like, oh yeah, I turned on the stove or something like that. Usually it doesn't happen that I just like completely forget it, but recently it has been happening, and it did happen more shortly, like after I had the traumatic brain. You know, I wasn't really allowed to drive at that time actually, so it wouldn't have been like right after. It wouldn't have been like right afterwards because you can't really drive when you're having motor function problems. You can tell I've gained most of my speech function back. I might need to go back and work with my speech therapist. But yeah, I do have a little bit of stuttering issue, but it's not something that affects me that much. It's mostly just like annoying. Sometimes I'll forget, you know, like we were talking about the conversations where I'll forget. See, I remember that we were talking about that. I remember this one time I was in an interview and I completely forgot what I was talking about. I'm not gonna say that, sorry, I don't remember anything that I was just talking about, or like what was I'm like, oh, sorry, I think I've been kind of rambling. Like, what was your question again? Pretty good, huh? Because then I can remember what the question was and I could like, but I might have repeated exactly the same thing that I said the first time before I forgot. I don't know, but I got the job. Yes, so I do have a little bit of anterograde amnesia, like Dory, where sometimes you can remember things, sometimes you completely forget, and like her, like it's not, like when you forget things, it's just like you're not gonna remember. And this happens so, like, the ones where I like completely forget, sorry, and I feel like I'm repeating the same thing. I'm getting remnants of what we talked about. I don't know. Even if you remind me, if you're like, we were talking about this, I feel like I talked about this. The sentences that I was talking, yeah, I think I talked about it. Okay, anyway, yeah. See, I should have written more specific notes. Okay. I turned off my camera. I was done filming the video, and then I remembered a few things that I forgot to write down. So something else is that I obviously am at a much greater increased risk for dementia. There's many things that my neurologist and my brain doctor, that we've talked about in terms of kind of helping to prevent that. One thing that really surprised me was that hearing loss is one of the greatest risk factors for getting dementia. So this is how she explained it. If you're a hearing person, from when you're little, you can hear, and your brain is kind of creating neurological pathways in understanding spoken things. Then as you age or as you have hearing damage, you can have hearing damage even younger, which I do have. Most hearing loss comes from things that is preventable. As we lose our hearing, our brain, when we can't pick up as many words, when we're not understanding as many words because we can't hear them, our brains aren't being worked in the same way. If you're understanding 75% of what people are saying, your brain isn't being worked in the exact same way. Even if you're missing a couple of them, you're going to be not understanding a lot of what you're hearing. You're going to be missing whole sentences in the context of those sentences if you're missing like a couple of words every sentence. So anyway, your brain basically starts to like shrink in that area. You're gonna have a harder time even just thinking about, I don't know, basically your brain's just not gonna be worked as much, if that makes sense. And that you may be thinking, well, why is it different for non-hearing people that are deaf? When you're deaf, or if you're born deaf, it's a little bit different if you like had some kind of, like, if you heard like an explosion and you like immediately like were deaf, or like you had like some kind of infection. I don't know, this is so interesting that she was explaining this to me and I remembered it. When you're born deaf, your brain never formed those pathways. Your brain formed pathways in a different way, in signing and in just in other ways that your brain would never have the opportunity to shrink in those ways because you would never lose your hearing because you never had it, which is so interesting. But anyway, I have a lot of hearing damage. I bring earplugs with me all over the place. Like, I went to a football game the other day and I was wearing earplugs. And when I tell people this, they're like, "No, that's not true that hearing loss causes dementia." What are you talking about? And like, I'll explain to them how it can, and they'll be like, "Nuh-uh.
Why would I lie about that?
Other ways that you can kind of help your brain to prevent dementia, doing new things. I like kind of struggle with math because of this, and so like something that I'll be practicing, even just basic math, just like small multiplication or addition equations, just to like not lose it completely, and just to kind of like work that part of your brain that like even though like I don't like math and I didn't like it beforehand, you just have to do it. If you're doing something that's difficult mentally, it's like a difficult concept or something, you don't just want to do that one thing. You have to kind of work your brain in other ways, even if they're things that you don't want to do, to kind of prevent that. I'll see people that are doing like dance, and I love watching like videos of people dance and stuff, but they'll be like shaking and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, your brain. Even if it's not hitting your skull, which it might be, your brain is so soft. If you were to take your brain, I've learned a lot about brains now. If you were to take your brain out, don't do that. I don't recommend that. But if you were to take it out, its own weight would make it collapse in on itself. It's so soft. And it has like no, like the reason why it doesn't in your brain is because you have all that fluid and stuff in your brain. And it's just kind of, you're floating around in there because of the fluid and whatnot. Or like when they play soccer and they hit the ball with your head, what are you doing? Like, I know it is like you want to do well in a game, but you're gonna cause yourself irreparable damage, and I know that. And I think people think that this is what I think people think. I think if they think you get hit in the head with something soft, you don't get a concussion. You're getting hit in the, what do you think your brain is doing in your head when you get hit in the head with a soccer ball? It smacks you in the head. Even if you don't move, your brain in your head is like so sensitive that it's gonna be like still moving, and especially if you're whacking it with your head, your brain is gonna hit your skull. You know, the whole topic around like CTEs and football, that is not something to take lightly, and especially because concussions and CTEs can greatly infect your mental health as well. A lot of people will get depression, or they'll get other things, not even just the problems with, you know, like speaking, like I was talking about, like you're gonna get all sorts of issues, and why would you do that when you don't have to with sports and stuff like that? So when I see football, it's just, there's not a lot you can do to kind of prevent that. They have those new Guardian caps. I don't think they do a lot, but if it helps even just a little bit, why wouldn't you wear that? You know, and I think a lot of people will be like, well, because it makes you look less tough. I'd rather have less brain damage than look more tough.
Are you kidding?
The same thing with like cold weather. Okay, now we're going on a little different topic, but the same thing with like cold weather games when they won't wear long sleeves and stuff like that. To me, that just looks dumb. Trying to look cool and you're putting yourself in harm's way for absolutely no reason. That looks stupid. And I'd rather look uncool than stupid. What are you doing? And especially because things with like Guardian caps and whatever, like, if it's gonna help you with your game, because if you're getting hit in the head, you're not gonna be like as quick, and you're not gonna be as good of a player potentially as if you were protecting your brain. The longevity that you would have in your career, I don't know, I'm going off, sorry. This is a topic that gets me riled up, you know, because because you want to look cool. Anyway. Oh, but also hearing aids. With the hearing thing, if you start wearing hearing aids and you have hearing loss, that helps. Like, you just need to be able to hear the word. You don't have to be able to hear them with your own hearing. Just keep swimming. Just what do you do? We swim. I don't think that was the words, but I forgot.